as well as our normal meeting. Before we start, I'd like to remind if there are any members of the public, if you're going to address us after either workshop today, please state your name and address and whether you are an OUC customer. Limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and the commissioners may direct questions to our officers and staff to address now, if appropriate. And if you have any responses to those questions as we verify the facts of our meeting, please feel free to do so. Now, at this time, we're going to have Mr. Preston. Vince will provide our safety and security protocols.
Good afternoon, President Mills, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and Clint. Of course, with OUC's commitment to make safety first, we will begin this commission meeting, as we do all of them, with a safety briefing in the event of an emergency. Of course, we are located here at 100 West Anderson Street in the Commission Chambers on the 7th floor. If there is a need for us to evacuate this area, we have 3 emergency exits to the front, center, and back of this room. We are to evacuate the building. We will exit the nearest door and proceed to the stairwells, either to the left or to the right of the commission room. And our meeting place will be to the surface parking lot under the 408, just south of the building. We have an AED, a first aid kit, located in the sound closet, and I myself will be the primary, and LaShawn L. Statham will be the backup. Our fire extinguishers are also located just outside the front and vestibule doorways. If there's a need for us to contact 911, Eileen McCall will be the designated person to make that call. Once again, the CPR primary and backup will be myself, and LaShawn L. Statham will be the backup. Of course, the security team will assist with directing emergency responders into the building and up to the 7th floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is now 2:02, and I'd like to call the pricing workshop to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we have a full board here, so quorum is present this afternoon. And before we begin, if there are any members of the public, as I said earlier, that are here today to address the commission regarding this pricing workshop, we'll provide you that opportunity at the end of the meeting. And please stay until that time, and we would like to, if you would like to speak rather, regarding that. Mr. Bullock, Clint, I turn the workshop over to you.
President Mills, I'll ask Minnie Bernay to come up as we begin the pricing workshop. I will just briefly say that we have some very good news to share with the commissioners and our customers related to some rate reductions. So the team is certainly excited about that. So I'm just going to turn it over to Mindy to lead us on our pricing workshop. So Mindy.
Sure. Thank you, Clint. Good afternoon, President Mills, Mayor Dyer, commissioners. I am here to present the pricing workshop today, which is mostly focused on electric and then overall customer charge changes. So with that, let me start with a little bit of background. I feel like I'm louder than I normally am. Anyhow, we have over the last 18 months really seen price volatility on natural gas commodity costs. The chart on the right really shows you that. And so over that period of time, our prices have fluctuated to reflect that. As a reminder, fuel costs are a pass-through to our customers. So really, we are reflecting what the market commodity price is doing. And so that is part of our retail fuel price. We have been seeing into the future more price stability. We do see, even though you see a low of $1.50, the long range market price is hovering around $3 in MMBTU, which is really back to recent historic levels. I won't say historic because we've seen volatility over time, and this has been proved out. We have been able to replenish our reserves after dipping into them at the end of 22, and we've really been able to recover those funds. And again, fuel is a pass-through for us. So as a result of seeing that stability and being able to really reach those target levels, we do now want to be able to pass some of those savings on to our customers. And so our recommendation today is effective July 1 to lower bills about 5% across all customer segments. Again, that is passing on those savings that we are not incurring cost on behalf of, it provides the residential customer about a $7 decrease on their average 1,000 kilowatt bill per month. It really, again, aligns with our commitment to passing on those savings to the customers. And whether you're a residential customer or a commercial customer, the rate that the fuel is decreasing is the same. It's just proportionately different for large commercial customers. The chart on the right shows you that little bit of price volatility we've experienced over the last 2.5 years. We started in 22 at about $1.12, and now in 24 we'll be at 125. But we did spike up to 147, all driven by fuel price changes. So when we look at our key performance financial measure, we look at our peer comparison. The chart on the right shows you our key performance indicator. Our strategic peer is 105% of the peer average. We have outlined our peers that are included in there just as a point of reference. Our price at 125 does meet that target, just slightly above the peer at about 1% over that, but well within our target. And again, it allows us to share those savings with our customers and also meet all of our commitments from the Reserve and Audit Finance Committee standpoint. We do have another change that we'd like to bring forward, which is historically, well, maybe historically is probably not the right word. About 10 years or so ago, we implemented we closed our walk-in centers and we closed our physical walk-in centers and transitioned that to third-party walk-in centers. And with that change, we transitioned the fees for those, and our customers were paying $1.30 at each of the walk-in centers. There were about 500 of them around the service territory. What we are recommending today is that those fees of $1.30 be transitioned back to OUC, and the customers will pay nothing when they walk into the service centers, third party. These are the service centers like Amscot, Western Union, and those customers typically pay in cash. There are about 35,000 payments that come through the walk-in centers a month. I don't know the actual number of customers because some of our prepaid customers make payments more than once a month. So that will be a savings for our most financially challenged customers who pay their bill via cash at the walk-in centers. So the actions and our next steps going forward are somewhat unusual, but we have done this before, and because it is a savings, we will be presenting under the new business heading the agenda item for fuel cost reduction, fuel price reduction. That is, again, effective on July 1, all designed to really help our customers as we go into the summer season. We will be sending the price changes to the Florida Public Service Commission. While they don't have jurisdiction, we still like to make sure that they've seen that pricing structure and the equity across the customer classes. Well, there will be a lot of communications that will go out around this. It'll start in the June bill cycle, but there'll be bill inserts, bill messages, customer newsletters, making sure that the customers know that we've made a price change to really help them through the high bill season. And then third, we will start communicating that change in the third-party walk-in centers. That will be effective October 1. It does require a little more back office work to make that happen. We have already started that with our third-party payment providers, and you will see that agenda item in the affirmative agenda items in the packet today, those costs associated with picking those fees up on behalf of the customers. So I will stop there and see if you have any questions for me.
Yes, one.
Sure. It is part of the Audit Finance Committee package. It is set at 60 to 90 days of actual fuel usage. So it is looked at annually so that we have the average cost of fuel for 3 months. in that reserve account. We did take a step in January last year to really help us build those reserves, and we recovered part of those fees to reach the floor of the target, and then took a step down and started sharing savings with our customers. But really all driven about the reserves and ensuring that our ratings, and we have enough to really support our customers through volatile pricing times. Right now, it is about 90 million. And that is about 3 months of actual cost of fuel that we need to run our plant. Other questions? Anything else? Yes.
Of the public that would like to address the pricing workshop? None? Okay. All right. Well, if there are no speakers or anyone else at this time, or no additional comments from or questions from the commissioners, I'll take a motion to adjourn the pricing workshop. So moved in second by Gonzalez and Gross. Do we have any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? So ordered. Pricing workshop is adjourned at 2:11. All right, now we move on to our regular meeting at this time. Mr. Torrance. Oh, I'm sorry. I said Mr. I meant Miss, and I just took a picture with you.
No worries at all. Good afternoon, Mayor Dyer, President Mills, Clint, Commissioners. I'm honored to be here today to offer a moment of reflection to you as you go about your important business today. I wish you wisdom, peace, and discernment. During the month of May, we celebrate many things: Mother's Day, Cinco de Mayo, Armed Forces Day, and of course, Memorial Day. Memorial Day is an American holiday observed on the last Monday of May, honoring men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Originally known as Decoration Day, it started in the years following the Civil War and became an official federal holiday in 1971. Many Americans observe Memorial Day by visiting cemeteries, memorials, holding family gatherings, and participating in parades. Unofficially, it marks the beginning of summer. The Civil War, which ended in the spring of 1865, claimed more lives than any conflict in the U.S. history and required the establishment of the country's first national cemeteries. By the 1860s, Americans in various towns and cities had begun holding springtime tributes to these countless fallen soldiers, decorating their graves with flowers and reciting prayers. It's unclear exactly where this tradition originated. Numerous different communities have independently initiated the memorial gatherings. Nevertheless, in 1966, the federal government declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day. Waterloo, which first celebrated the day on May 5th, 1866, was chosen because it hosted an annual community-wide event during which businesses closed, residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags. Memorial Day, as Decoration Day has gradually come to be known, originally only honored those who passed during fighting of the Civil War. But during World War I, the United States found itself embroiled in another major conflict, and the holiday evolved to commemorate American military personnel who died in all wars, including World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War, and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. For decades, Memorial Day continued to be observed on May 30th, the date General Logan had selected for the first Decoration Day. But in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which establishes Memorial Day as the last Monday in May in order to create a 3-day weekend for the federal employees. The change went into effect in 1971. The same law also declared Memorial Day as a federal holiday. So as we go about our day today, let's choose to remember those who gave all for our freedom and the families they left behind. Thank you for this opportunity and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Terry. I would like to now invite Maggie Burdette to come forward and lead the Pledge of Allegiance. And as she comes, let's acknowledge that she served in the U.S. Navy for 10 years, achieving the rank of Petty Officer Second Class. She's now worked for 7 years at OUC, and the current title is Director of Business Process Management. So would you please stand and join us for our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for your service. The time is now 2:15, and I would like to officially call the May 14th Commission meeting to order. This time, we'll move right on. Our next agenda item is the consideration of the April 9th, 2024 Commission meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the commission minutes and adopt them as published. It's been properly moved by Commissioner Gross and second by Commissioner Chapin. We have a motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So ordered. All right, awards. We will begin with Mr. Adams, I believe, presenting the First Service Award.
I'd like to call to the front of the room, Mr. William Munson, please. Mr. Munson is celebrating his 25-year service award today. He started with OUC in March of 1999. He has 2 children, Taylor, who's 30, and Carrington, who's 28, and he's very proud of his 2 children. Mr. Munson started working with the city of Fort Lauderdale as a water meter technician. Then when he moved to Orlando, he started working with Orange County Utilities as a water meter technician as well. His supervisor at the time was a gentleman named Ed Puskaric, and Ed's wife worked for OUC. And I guess along the way, somehow his wife told him that OUC had a job opening. And so William's supervisor actually told him about the opening here at OUC because he knew what a great company OUC was at the time. And it is a little strange, I must admit, the competition there, but he felt that OUC was a great opportunity for William, and we're glad that he made that recommendation because William did apply for the job and obviously got the job in 1999. So we're happy that he made that recommendation for us. So William has progressed through the water department. He was a water distribution technician 2, promoted to a tech 1, then a water meter tech 3, water meter tech 2, and now his current position is a water meter technician 1. William is our go-to guy in that department. He's one of the most knowledgeable water meter technicians that OUC has. He can resolve virtually any type of situation, any difficulty, any problem. He typically gets assigned the more complex and complicated jobs. He can relocate, reroute water meter lines in difficult circumstances when there are tree roots involved or concrete issues, sidewalk issues, tight right-of-way spaces, small areas to work in. Those jobs get assigned to Bill. He's the guy that figures it out, finds a solution, and makes it work. He's also a mentor and trains the younger technicians, which is very important to him. He likes to train them up in the old school way that he was brought up in, the work ethic that it takes to become successful and get to where he is. OUC also recently completed installing backflow devices on all residential special irrigation services. And William was a major contributor for the engineering design, layout, and connection of all the parts and pieces that are used to incorporate the backflow as part of this service. So we thank you for those contributions. Areas of interest, William loves old school cars and car audio systems. I believe it's an El Camino, right, that you have your eye on? What year? 84. So if anybody has an El Camino 84, 86, this is the guy here. that'll purchase that vehicle. He also loves fishing, drawing, and just enjoying life. So William, we thank you for your 25 years of service.
All right, Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon. I'd like Thomas Howell and his family to join us. Thomas is joined by his wife of 28 years, Connie, and his daughter, Taylor. His son, Nicholas, is testing today, so he was not able to join us. It gives me great pleasure to recognize Thomas Howell for 20 years of dedicated service to OUC. Before Thomas began his career here at OUC, he served in the United States Navy from 1990 to 1994. And during his military service, he had two significant deployments, a 6-month assignment in the Persian Gulf. And when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, he was sent to Mississippi to support the relief and restoration efforts there. Before Thomas joined OUC, he worked for Spartanburg Water System for 10 years in South Carolina and served as a water technician and crew lead. Thomas thought worthy of bringing his critical skill sets here to Florida and to OUC in May of 2004 and made an impact very early in his career. He was hired as a water technician too. And in his first year of service with OUC, he was awarded the Rookie of the Year award. Thomas quickly progressed to a water technician 1, and shortly thereafter, he moved into a support specialist role within the water distribution department, where he conducted backflow testing. He later progressed to a senior distribution technician and a water inspector. This role really leveraged Thomas's attention to detail and high standards. In 2017, he returned to technician work and was promoted to lead water technician, where he oversaw a crew of 5 technicians and had one of the highest rates of successful job completions at that time. And then in February of 22, a position became available on the technical training team due to a retirement of one of our long tenured employees. And we were very fortunate that Thomas sought interest in this job and he applied for it and he was awarded the position. His transition was really seamless. He hit the ground, picked off where his predecessor left off and really advanced the water technical training program forward. Although Thomas has only been within the department for 2 years, he's made a really significant impact. I'm happy to report he takes training very seriously. He has 100% compliance on all training requirements for the water production and water distribution teams. And he really takes new hires and the safety of those new hires that we have, our technicians, really seriously. He ensures that all of their training is complete before they head out to the field. In addition, he oversees the compliance of our existing training, which includes asbestos, maintenance of traffic, rigging training for all of our technicians. Thomas also understands the importance of partnerships.
He was instrumental in designing and implementing a new CDL program with Valencia College for OUC when the state of Florida increased the course hours and requirements just recently here. And he's worked very collaboratively with various departments across the network to identify the needs, assist with class registration, and monitors the employee's progress throughout the course. I did ask his director, LaShawn Statham, for some feedback, and she says, Thomas holds his students to a high level of expectation. He provides valuable training and feedback and is respected by the employees and his peers because of the integrity he brings to his position, and he's a pleasure to work with. Thomas, again, has been married to Connie for 28 years. Both of his kids attend Apopka High School. His daughter here, Taylor, is in the medical magnet program, and his son is in the engineering magnet program. Great job, both of you. In his spare time, obviously he enjoys time with his family. He also enjoys fishing and gardening and keeping that lawn very manicured and looking great. Thomas, I want to share with you that we value you and your commitment that you bring to OUC each and every day, and the improvements that you've made to our technical training program. Thank you for your service to OUC and to our nation. Please join me in congratulating Thomas Howell on 20 years of service to OUC.
That's great. Thank you guys so much, and both of you, for your years. All right, Ms. Thompson, don't get comfortable. We're going to go right into the employee community recognition, and you're up first.
Awesome. Good afternoon, President Mills, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and Clint. I am delighted to share some good news with you today. OUC once again has achieved the prestigious Best Wellness Employer Gold certification from Wellness Workdays. This is our 7th consecutive year earning the recognition, and it's a testament to our team's diligent work in creating an industry-leading wellness program. Investing in the health of our employees isn't just the right thing to do, it's a cornerstone of our success here at OUC. And we know that by empowering our team members and their families to move forward to achieve their health and wellness goals, we're also fostering an engaged workforce. We're boosting morale and satisfaction of our team members, and we're allowing OUC and our employees to benefit from lower healthcare costs. Achieving gold certification is no easy feat. It requires employees to really demonstrate a significant commitment to employee wellness and to have a track record of success. Candidates or organizations are scored by a third party, and they rate our performance across 4 key categories, and they are assessment, strategy, implementation, and evaluation. There's a total of 120 points out of, we scored 120 points out of a total of 134 points. And our performance year after year continues to improve. In 2023, we received 112 points out of 133. As you can see, we've moved up significantly 8 points there. We also saw a strong balance across all 4 categories. In the assessment category, this really reflects how we identify and respond to our employees' needs. We scored 31 out of 35. In the area of strategy, which measures how effectively we're designing and targeting the program towards those needs, We scored 39 out of 41 points. We're very close to achieving that full 41 points there, 5 points above last year's score of 34. And in the implementation phase, we scored 17 out of 20 points on that. And that really focuses on our execution and the effectiveness of our programs. And finally, on the evaluation, we scored 32 out of 38 points, and we saw slight improvement in this category over last year. Reflected in the results are, the overall big picture here. We are leading with some wellness programs and some key partnerships with Advent Health with our New Day, New Way program, which addresses chronic conditions like prediabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and diabetes. These things remain a top priority for us. And we look at our numbers year over year to see how we're either improving or making grounds on our workforce or our members that suffers from these types of conditions. While all three are complex and unique, you have to take a personalized approach to addressing them with lifestyle intervention, medical care, and perhaps some other components to help mitigate these conditions. As I mentioned before, New Day, New Way is targeted to those individuals who have conditions of pre-diabetes, and Thrive, another Advent Health program, serves members who are actually currently living with diabetes and have an A1C of 7.0 or higher. These programs are offered to our members, to our employees and their families at no cost to them. And they work with certified diabetes educators and nutritionists and exercise professionals to really address that overall healthcare picture for them. We also realize that no two people are the same. They don't have the same wellness journey. And that's why we at OUC strive to support our employees and families as they set to achieve their goals. We would like to set them up for success. And some of these targeted interventions like New Day, New Way, and the Thrive program offer a range of in-person and virtual opportunities. We also focus on research from Blue Zones, which represents a more bigger picture for OUC and a holistic approach to healthcare and to wellness. Blue Zones, I think we've discussed before, is really focusing on research developed by areas across the world that has the highest rates of living. And there are key things that those individuals do to have that longevity, and we are implementing those things into our programs. One example of that is our Seed to Table. And it's the image here represents some of our employees getting together. They go out to a garden, they pick the vegetables, and they make a meal that's very healthy and nutritious. Over the past 3 years, we've expanded our offering also to include mental health and stress recovery programming. Not only do we do emotional well-being and physical well-being, but we also look at focusing on resilience and stress management. All of these things have an overall benefit to employees' healthcare and overall happiness in life. And finally, we recognize that social engagement is also a very important component to your overall wellness. And so we try to engage our employees in events that bring about a social component as well. And that's why we owe additional appreciation to our community engagement team for helping us focus on events like our 5K charity types of opportunities to volunteer throughout the year. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank some very important people for this. Earning this gold certification for the 7th year in a row is a monumental achievement for us. And we owe that success to our remarkable wellness team. I want to send a heartfelt thanks to Patrick Peters, Jessica Puentes, and Allison Roy for their continued diligent efforts and leadership on wellness. And I'd also like to recognize our 60 wellness champions across our commission. These employees volunteer their time to promote health awareness and educate their teams and really help drive engagement towards a healthier lifestyle. I will entertain any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Linda.
President Mills, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners Clint. I am here to celebrate kind of the culmination of our OUC 100, our OUC 100th year. It's been quite a year, so I'm just going to highlight and recap the year with a few points. If you could go to the next page. Just as a reminder, way back in 1923, that's the year that the Florida legislature established the Orlando Utilities Commission. It was after Judge John Chaney, seen here, the owner of the Orlando Water and Light Company, Orlando's first water and power plants, proposed the municipal utility own and operate the facilities, and that bonds be issued which would allow the citizens of Orlando to purchase utility and turn them over to the newly formed OUC to provide these vital services to the community. So that year on June 25th, the Orlando Utilities Commission held its very first commission meeting right here in downtown Orlando. Next slide. So last year on June 26th, we all gathered over in City Hall and we celebrated the centennial service with the OUC 100th anniversary day proclaimed at City Hall by our own Mayor Dyer. Next page. So over the past year, we've really captured and shared our achievements through websites, social media, all kinds of channels. We've updated our OUC history book. And we also published a 2023 OUC Community Responsibility Report, which was aptly named Connected and Committed. You can see a variety of those things here. So much outreach to our community and to our employees. Page 5. And of course, knowing how vital STEM is to us, science, technology, engineering, and math, and that education is to our community, together with the Orlando Public Library System, we celebrated those 100 years of service by partnering in creating a book bike. I might also mention that the Orange County Public Library Service or system also celebrated 100 years of service. So that mobile library has gone to countless community events, and we also took over the entranceway of our downtown library branch, which you can see there, with STEM, energy, and water related books. On the next page, you can see that we had some fun tracing our footsteps through a special exhibit at the Orange County History Center. We offered free admission to our community through a free family day. Had very good turnout on that one. And then on the next page, you'll see that this summer, this whole campaign will reach its culmination with an exhibit at the Orlando Science Center that's going to highlight the future of energy and water. It'll have a 2-year lifespan. It'll be a really fun, immersive experience. It'll be entitled Waterworks and Power Play. Guests will really be drawn in by some large digital signage, encouraging participation and learning through some really fun, engaging gamification features. On slide 8, you can see that we're going to wrap up this special commemorative year by sharing with you some things, some ways we've been recognized both nationally and locally. So this award that you see here, this was bestowed upon us by the public power utilities, by their service, their customers and community for over 100 years. This is by the APPA, which you hear us talk about, the American Public Power Association. And then on slide 9, just last month, OUC received the Award of Excellence by the Downtown Orlando Partnership as part of the Golden Brick Awards. Alongside the library, we were honored for the centennial campaigns that celebrated the people, projects, and initiatives that really propelled downtown forward, not just in 2023, but since 1923. And on the next page, you might, too many pages forward. Only trying to go to the Robinson Recharge Hub. There we go, on the Robinson Recharge Hub. Our electric vehicle charging hub also received a Golden Brick Award on the sustainability category, which really speaks to OUC. It's always driving forward and adapting to the needs for the present and the future. We've always played an integral role in supporting Central Florida's growth by investing in cutting-edge energy generation and water delivery technology and innovations in new products and services like the CV charging hub, while meeting the community's demands for quality and accessibilities. These are not just one-time accomplishments and recognitions. They reflect our 100 years of dedicated customer focus and hard work by our employees and the trust of our Central Florida community. It takes people like you, commissioners, who serve the community by representing the needs of our customers and helping us plot the course for the future in everything that you do and all the decisions that you make. So as we close out this 100 years, I do want to take the time to thank you, our current commissioners, all of our previous commissioners, and the thousands of current and retired employees, all focused on our customers, on our community, for your vision, dedication, and your commitment. Thank you.
Denise.
Good afternoon, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, and Clint. As you know, environmental stewardship is one of the 4 community investment pillars that we measure and track at OUC. The environmental stewardship pillar supports our commitment to protecting the region's natural resources and environment through key investments and partnerships. Every April, during Earth Month, we embrace this stewardship with the execution of several community events and initiatives. On April 13th, 40 OUC employees and their family members gathered together at the City of Orlando's Eagles Nest Park in Metro West to do a cleanup. We partnered with Keep Orlando Beautiful and the Orlando City Soccer Club. That day, just 2 weeks later, on April 25th, OUC recognized 34 students from Orange County Public Schools who were named as finalists in the 2024 Watercolor Project. The award ceremony was held at the Orlando Family Stage and honored the students, their teachers, and the principals. Rather than hearing me talk, we got a quick video to show you on this one.
We're at Eagle Nest Park today, which is one of the largest green spaces in Orlando. We've got some great areas for our community, and we also have some cypress wetlands that are home to many protected and native Florida species. So we're out here today making this habitat more beautiful. OUC came out with so many volunteers. We're able to do all those different activities like storm drain marking, cleaning litter from the land, and getting in the water as well. We're excited that they are hyped to get into the wetland and really get into conservation and really clean up in our natural habitats today. So to have their enthusiasm here is going to make such a huge difference for our wetland today.
I've had the great fortune to work for the club for the last 9 years, and I have loved our partnership with OUC. We are unified in our commitment to sustainability and environmental impact, and I love the ways that we show up in the community together. OUC's Watercolor Project is an educational outreach that we do with Orange County Public Schools, and it is to teach water conservation through art. Tonight, we are recognizing all the winners of the contest, the calendar, and the rain barrels.
I helped design the barrel by helping with the outline of the sketch and also with most of the animals in it too. I did enjoy it very much because I got to connect with my classmates, and we overall had a lot of fun making it.
I love teaching the students about water conservation because it's so important, and I love to see what they generate, their ideas, the discussions we have, and the final results of their artwork. It's always amazing to look at what they come up with.
What I love about it is our connection with the youth. Going into the schools and really supporting art. I think it's such an important piece of our curriculum, and having the opportunity to combine it with sustainability and conservation, what a great combination, and OUC is really proud to partner with Orange County Public Schools.
I'm so proud to be able to be a part of this. You know, as the program specialist for Orange County Public Schools, it's been my honor to be able to partner with the OUC and to encourage and to lead our teachers through this project. They really committed to it becoming a part of their curriculum, and we see returning teachers every single year with this project, and we're hoping to grow that in the future.
So those were just two of the over 10 events that OUC participated in this past April. We recognize the value and the importance of environmental stewardship and giving back to our community. I really want to thank our community partners, OUC employees, Orange County students and teachers who help support these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Very insightful. All right, we move right on with the agenda. We'll move now to affirmative action portion of the agenda. Clint, do we have, before we consider, do we have any requests from the public to speak on these items?
We do not.
Okay, then let's continue to move on. Do you have comments or presentations?
I don't have any specific agenda items to call out today for the commissioners. I do just want to highlight, as Mindy indicated, A23 is a specific agenda item related to third-party walk-in customer payment processing services. And then the rates will be covered under new business. But if any commissioners have any questions for any affirmative items, we'll be glad to take them.
Any questions before we vote on the affirmative from the commissioner? Well, seeing none then, is there a motion?
Approval.
Oh, moving right along. It's been motioned by Mayor Dyer and second by Commissioner Chapin. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, motion passes. Mr. Bullock, do we have any comments on the new business items? Number one, for retail electric fuel prices.
President Mills, I don't think I can add anything from the presentation that was done about 205 by Mindy, so we'll move it back to the commissioners.
All right, and seeing no one from the public has addressed us on this item. Before we vote on new business item number one, are there any comments from the commissioners? Hearing none. Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the proposed retail electric fuel prices effective July 1st, 2024, and recognize that's pending Florida Public Service Commission review?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gonzalez and second from Chapin. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Now we move into our presentations.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, we had a stormwater discussion yesterday at City Council, and some of the members of the public said that once a rate goes up, it never comes down. So in fact, it did come down today.
Yes, there you go. And when we get to our comments, I'll just throw that in right now. I think that's one of the things that I want to commend you guys on, that education and communication preview that we're going to do to get the word out into the community that this is going down. And we really want to push that big time. So, and thank you for that, Mayor. All right. I think you're up. Financial report.
Yes, it is always much nicer to come up with a rate decrease than a rate increase, for sure. And over my career, I've had a little bit of both. So happy to be coming close on a down. Anyhow, all right, here is the April financial report we have for you. You can see that on the top line, our retail and wholesale revenues are strong. Part of that is warmer than normal weather, and a part of that is a growing penetration of EVs. So we are seeing more revenue generated from that based on deemed savings and the number of EVs that we are tracking in the community. We've also seen a little bit of forward movement on water. It's been dry. We are now starting the rainy season, so we might see that taper off a bit, but right now we're a little shy of $1 million forward on budget. On the expense side, we are seeing higher than normal costs. We are seeing that trend of supply chain impact from one-time charges for our generation facility plants, some increase in our benefit costs, but all of these things from inflation are really pushing us forward on the expense line. Not uncommon across many industries, but we are overall ahead of budget and continue to be on track to meet our pro forma at the end of the fiscal year. Any questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Browder, do we have any legal issues to report? Super. Mr. Bullock, do we have any members of the public that have requested to address the board under general appearances?
Yes, President Mills, we do have one. I think you have that information in front of you. Mr. Jonathan Blount.
Blunt will come forward at this time.
We just do that on purpose now.
Yeah, you have no idea, what great joy it gives me to stand here and to welcome Linda Lanzman Gonzalez, a woman who has had a most stellar and outstanding career in public service. And to see her here still giving public service is just warms the cockles of my heart. Linda, it's so good to see you again. I just want to thank President Mills and Janice and Jessica and Derek specifically. I was instrumental in introducing Mr. Hudson to Rich Black of Onyx Magazine and their special Women on the Move. And he was instrumental in having OUC to engage as a part of that program. And to such an extent that President Mills gave the invocation. And he gave special attendance to the woman that moves in his life, his wife, who was there with him. And I want to thank you all again for embracing the Orlando Carnival Festival, which is coming up Memorial Weekend. It's a 3-day festival. Friday night is the fashion show. Saturday night is the Back in Time line at Dr. Phillips. And then Sunday, we have the Grand Festival Parade at Camping World Campus. And we tend to welcome about 30,000 people during the course of that. And to have OUC as a partner because the Caribbean brings everybody together. It's called out of many comes one. And so everybody embraces that culture and the food and the music. We welcome you all to be there and be a part of it. OUC has the grace of having attended the festival, and there are complimentary event tickets available for those of you who might wish to join us. And we certainly would appreciate having your presence, and let us have what they call a little bacchanal time. God bless you and thank you.
All right, if that's all we have from the public at this time, then we'll move forward with general manager comments.
Thank you, President Mills. I do have a few items I would like to share with the board here today with support of the team. I feel like there's some updates to keep the board informed. First, I'm going to ask Ken Zambito to get us started, and then Janice will be joining. I wanted to give the board an update on the Robinson Street utility upgrades that are going on right in the core of downtown Orlando. Ken will explain how the FDOT is the driver of the project. However, we do have a variety of utility upgrades that are occurring in that same corridor prior to the FDOT really getting started. So we wanted to make you aware there's a variety of different utility services. There's a variety of different schedules. Certainly we'll have to work through with the community some of the impacts that are occurring, but the project's going to be great when it's done. And Ken will talk a little bit about the partnership with Janice and how we continue to work with customers, talk with customers, inform customers. But these are some important upgrades that need to be done for our city. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ken and Janice.
Thank you, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, Clint. Yes, I'm going to give you a little bit of an update, and then Janice will follow at the back end with a little bit of information about her public outreach. So what's going on Robinson Street? Well, the DOT has big plans for Robinson Street. There's going to be a more pedestrian-friendly opportunity. There's going to be street parking. Pretty significant changes are in the works for Robinson Street. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means once they make these changes to Robinson Street, they don't want us messing up their road, at least for quite some time. So the DOT will put a 5-year moratorium on getting in that road after the work is complete. So what that means is a lot of people need to get in that road now. The city is doing some work on the sewer or sanitary system all the way from basically I-4 to Crystal Lake. So they're in there working now on different segments of that. We have started our project for transmission. Lemoyne's got distribution going on in both the water and the electric. There's a lot going on. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So specifically here, you can see the areas along Robinson Street that are going to be impacted by OUC work. The orange, there we go, I just use my pointer, is electric distribution. The blue, water distribution, and then the green is our transmission duct bank that will be going in. So electric underground distribution project. Essentially, this is running sort of in the same vicinity of the Lake Eola Park, along with a little extra there. There are existing facilities in the ground that need to be relocated because of the DOT project. There's also some overhead that will need to be relocated. So that is going to be converted to underground as well. So we'll not only get out of the way of the DOT, we'll also improve the aesthetics for the park area there. Lemoyne brought this project to commission previously in April, and the work has not yet started, but will be starting here very soon. The water main replacement, you've got pipe in the ground here in this segment that is approximately 80 years of age. So again, opportunity to get in the road here and get that done before the DOT does their work. This project has actually started, so there are some traffic impacts going on right now due to this work. And then my part, the famous transmission project on Robinson Street, having some significant impacts to the community, which Janice will talk about here. This is a project that was approved last year. It is 1 mile of a segment of duct bank that is being put in place for our line that will eventually go from Pershing facility to the Lake Highland substation that will be built in the future. We're working this project in 300-foot segments, trying to make our way down Robinson Street. We do recognize that it's a significant impact to the community, and we're doing our best to get out ahead of that. And then I think, Janice, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi again. So commissioners, we did start ahead of the project first dig, if you will, about a week and a half to 2 weeks out with broadcast alerts to the customers that would be impacted. To date, we've sent about 3,700 alerts. And what that means is if a customer has a preference on file with us, they get a message via text, email, or a voice message about the project and its impacts. We've built out a landing page on our website, ouc.com/projects, where we're driving customers for more information. This is updated weekly on Fridays after our team, our public relations team, and our project managers meet with the city and the FDOT's teams to get any updates, if there's any traffic patterns that are going to change, if there's any extension to the project, it's discussed at that time, and then we update all of our materials and we communicate them. On those landing pages, customers are able to sign up for emails, although I can't say we've had that many people sign up. We've had about 1,700 visits to the website, but very few signups for those emails. We do make direct contact with customers whose driveways will be impacted by the project, especially if it's right in front. So we go to their door, we knock, and we try to talk to them. We leave something called the neighborly news at their residence, which includes maps on the back, as well as information on detours and reroutes, and again, drives people to ouc.com/projects for more information. Our project managers and the PR team, Derek Hudson and his team, are working closely to do outreach. You can see on this photo to the right, the person on the right is Dan Slack, one of our PMs, and on the left is Natalie Urick, one of our PMs. That is one of the shop owners in the Milk District who actually did a wonderful social media post asking their customers to just plan a little extra time before and after their trip to get in and out to their shop, and mentioned that we were there talking to them and giving them updates. I'll be frequenting that shop quite a bit here in the future. We coordinate the media as well. If they reach out, we did have a few hits as the project was kicking off, but that has slowed down quite a bit. And that neighborly newsletter that I mentioned, we've sent about 1,400 of those out. That is the update that I have for you. One other stat is that 200 contacts have been made in the field. We've talked to 200 individuals in person. I'll take any questions that you have for me, or Ken can come back up and join me if you have any infrastructure project questions. No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Janice? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I know most of the work is being done by necessity for upgrades or whatever, but we're deeply appreciative of the aesthetic impact on the section on Robinson between Roslyn and Eola. I think that's the last overhead that was left in Lake Eola Park. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, I'll move on to my next item. I'm going to ask Wade to come up while I give a little bit of an intro. This is an update on the Conway Water Treatment Plant. It's a little unusual upon completing a project that we come back and give the board an update. But I think there's some significant features and enhancements that we made specific to the Conway Water Treatment Plant, one of 7 plants. So Wade's going to walk you through the project and some of the elements of it and show you some of these features on the back end that are done. And then he's going to transition the conversation into provide an update on PFAS to the commissioner so they have an understanding of the EPA ruling, a little bit of the schedule, and speak a little bit on that item. So Wade, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Clint. Welcome, President Mills, Commissioner, and Mayor Dyer. So you can drive, Indy. So let's talk a little bit about the Conway Water Plant. The plant was actually built in 1968. So we started several projects there, which was the improvements, the water system improvements, the ozone side injection, bulk sodium hypochlorite, and GAC, also known as granulated activated carbon. So with the infrastructure, we did that because there was an aging infrastructure. Again, 1968, a lot of facilities built. So there were some things that we needed to take care of. We're also going to do a direct injection, go from chlorine gas to sodium hydrochloride, which is bleach, granulated activated carbon, and an emergency generator that can power the entire facility. Ozone side stream injections are using ozone injections instead of the contact basin that we used to use before. It's more efficient and improves safety when you got to enter those confined space atmospheres. And then the hyperchloride obviously is the improved safety, and we don't have to have the chlorine gas and the chlorine scrubbers on the site. And GAC, the ultimate goal there was to reduce some flushing and have some backup emergency generation for the water quality lab and stuff there. But the GAC was a big target there. Again, this is where the Conway Water Treatment Plant's located. You've seen this slide before in other presentations. It points out the different water plants. It's actually just a little southeast of here, right? We have the 7 water treatment plants and the 1 repump, which is going to be converted to the southeast RO water treatment plant. This is a drone view, I guess you would say, of the Conway plant after construction. The green vessels, it's kind of interesting pointer here, Ken. You have to get used to this. Those are the granulated activated carbon vessels. That's where water comes in, contacts the carbon, it removes the impurities, which is really total organic carbon, which we'll get into. The building behind it is the new bleach and control room and some of the backwash pumps and GAC pumps. And then we have emergency generators here. This used to be preoccupied, this entire area, by our groundwater storage tank that was having some aging infrastructure issues. So that was taken down and we rebuilt the plant to this. And then you can see the
the LOX, the liquid oxygen tanks here. That's what's used for the ozone injection to remove sodium, the rotten egg gas, as we like to call it, the smell from well water, right? And then this is the actual injection area here with the control room and some of the switch gear and stuff. Couple photos we're going to go through to show the completed project. These are actually the granulated activated carbon pumps. Are actually using the pumps to push the water through the filters, because the filters, like any other filter, is going to have a pressure drop across it. So you have to have an increased pressure to get across the filter media back out to our customers. And then the photo to the right is part of the backwash system, is a backwash and clean the carbon, back flush it. A couple of pictures here. One of the ozone side stream pumps. That's where we pull water off and send it through the ozone, and then it comes down here and gets re-injected into the slide stream here, which is a mixture of the water and the ozone itself. And then this is just some of the piping and networking here from the ozone, after the ozone's injecting, going out to our service area. Sodium hypochlorite bleach, again, replace the chlorine, gaseous chlorine at the plant. And then some of the feed pumps that feed in, and all that's for pH balance control of the water. Some interesting facts here is the project started off with a capital expenditure the board approved, and this actually started in about the 2017-18 timeframe from a design perspective, and went through the COVID era. So we had a little bit of delay in construction, but total project cost that the board approved was almost 33 million, and the actual expenditure came in about 30 million, so we're about 2.7 million under budget. So we want to talk a little bit about what GAC does. Again, granulated activated carbon. Top line here, there's the green and the blue. The green is before measurements, and after measurements is the blue. So total organic carbon, that's the amount of organic carbon that's in the water. Why is that important? Because organic carbon forms trihalomethanes when you add bleach or chlorine to the system. THMs are, we have to disinfect the THMs. The only way to do that after the formation is to flush the water. So as you see our water flushing going on, that's because we got to keep the chlorine residual up and get rid of the THMs. So you can see that the organic carbon loading was reduced significantly from 2.12 to 1.3. Chlorine residual went down. That means we're better able to control the chlorine. So technically it's a more higher quality of water from a drinking aspect, right? Shows a little bit of the chlorine used, which is actually the bleach used during significant drop, about 30% drop in the actual bleach used. PFAS testing, we'll talk about a little bit. That's coming in December. Some of the significant things are the flushing in the Conway service area alone. Before and after, we were able to reduce flushing by 456,000 roughly. And then the system-wide, because it's a network of distribution, we're able so far with this GAC project to reduce the flushing by 776,000 gallons per day. That's equivalent to 3,100 homes, excuse me. That's a big number, right? So this also provides us for future demand growth and cup capacity. Important project. Again, about 2.7 million saved, very positive results on the water quality side. So a little bit about PFAS. You've had some commissioner updates in the past about PFAS. I'll go through a timeline next, but the PFAS is kind of a family. There's PFOA and PFOS, and the new limits set by the EPA are 4 parts per trillion. Probably an interesting analogy is, what is a part per trillion? If you take an Olympic-sized swimming pool, they say that typically holds 1 trillion drops of water. So you're trying to find 4 droplets of water in a large Olympic-sized pool. That's pretty impressive, right? Parts per trillion. So in March of 2023, the EPA came out and said, we're going to propose this rule. It's going to have maximum limits for PFAS, as PFOA, PFOS, and some other Gen X combined. But the real targets most of the industry is watching is PFOA and PFOS, and that's 4 parts per trillion.
Prior to that, the testing we had done was at 70 parts per trillion. Significant reduction down to 4 parts per trillion. So in April of this year, they came out and said, here's our new limits. And it is the 4 parts per trillion. That did not change. Kind of what changed was the timelines. So it allows for 3 years of sampling and an additional 2 for compliance. And what that really means is, okay, we have to complete all our testing and analysis within the next 3 years. We're scheduled to do our plants and our water distribution system in the December timeframe this year. So we'll get the results from that and then determine how we move forward. Right now, we believe everything is looking good for compliance. I must mention that the compliance testing measures and the methodology that they do now for this type of parts per trillion is very stringent. EPA had to come out with new rules and standards just for that alone. And 2029 is when all implementations have to be done. So you have to have whatever upgrades you're going to do to your system to remove PFAS done by 2029. Or if you're in the process of reducing those levels in 2029, but the project's not completed, you have to start informing the public that it's in progress and you're still, in the progress, and you have to provide notification of the violation above the 4 parts per trillion. So, any questions?
You want to clarify December? December is when we'll have the results back on all the plants. You want to clarify that
No.
again, please?
No. Good question, Clint. December is when we're scheduled to do the testing. There's only a certain amount of labs that can do this testing because of the standardizations that have to be reached. So it usually takes, I'm going to say, Brad, probably a month or 2, 4 months. 4 weeks, month. Okay, good. About 4 weeks to get those test results back. Very comprehensive test. Not any water lab can do this. They have to be certified and qualified to do it. So we're contracted to do this. Our EPA schedule is December. So they basically tell you when you need to test, and ours is December this year.
So on the graph, you have kind of a before and after. Are we going to have that for PFAS? I mean, for
Yes, sir, we will. That's right now, we don't have that.
We had a measurement of PFAS there in the past, and now we're going to have this new one after the.
Well, we will have before and after for the GAC. Yes, yes. We're not required, as I understand, to do that for GAC. We got to test it, what's going into the distribution system, but we want to know what the impact from GAC is. And we know it does remove PFAS. It's about the quality of water, because the GAC is removing many things out of the water. So it's just how effective is it on the.
Where it starts when it's coming in.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And probably specifically need to note that the Conway plant was targeted for GAC because it had the highest level of TOC, total organic carbons, of any of our plants. So we knew we were going to get the most bang for our buck there from a flushing and from a reduction. So that's why it was targeted like that. And I'd like to give thanks to Brad Jewell, who's here with me. He's our water production director, and his team getting this project across the line was kind of challenging during those COVID years with some of the supply chain and keeping the contractors moving. And it was a project, but we're glad to have it behind us now.
Let me expand a little bit more, perhaps for Commissioner Chapin. Just want to be clear. Before and after, right, the chart on slide 9, you specifically mentioned that the EPA has indicated that there's new testing protocols related to PFAS. And so would one expect to compare previous PFAS readings to the new, or is it really just about the new reading moving forward?
When I say, I'm sorry, let me make sure I clarify. Before GAC, that's going to be the test of the water coming into the GAC versus the water.
Got it.
So that PFAS, you're correct, Clint, is specific testing to this December. The protocol are now assigned.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, we have another presentation. I've got Mike Murtaugh. I'd like to come up and want to spend a few minutes sharing with the commissioners. It's a bit of an industry update. We've done this a few times, and really want to talk about a bit of headline news related to increased demand on the utility system. We're seeing a variety of electrification, we're seeing AI, we're seeing data centers, we're seeing onshoring. And we really are seeing a significant increase in the need for electricity. And so we thought it was appropriate to just take a moment to spend some time sharing with the commissioners some of the items that we're seeing nationally and understand what does that mean for OUC specifically, and what does that mean in our planning process as we are moving forward. I think it's a pretty important subject that's going on right now in our economy, in our industry, and we just thought it would be appropriate to ask Mike to give you a bit of an update on this subject. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, Clint, good afternoon. Pleasure to talk about this subject. It's good that Mindy's led off with some rate decreases because we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges we have going forward. A lot of opportunity as well. And we want to be as transparent as possible, right, around some of the challenges. We're in a very dynamic environment, utilities, right? We're entering this transformative stage where you think about everything from the energy transition that we're going through, right, to grid modernization of our kind of older infrastructure, right? You think about some of the objectives we have in terms of what that will cost from an infrastructure standpoint. And then ultimately, how do we drive that cost in an equitable manner, right? So equity is very important as you're getting into a much more dynamic environment in terms of how that gets distributed. So I want to talk a little bit more about that today. And, we're working not just to ourselves, but with external peers, advisors, et cetera, to better understand kind of how is this environment changing and how do we need to pivot, right? This is an area where you probably need to be as agile as we've needed to be in utilities in the last probably half century. So adaptability, agility, how do we pivot accordingly in this ever-changing environment is very important. So today I want to talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, Andy. So, the energy transition, we've talked about this as a good visual just to kind of outlay some of the changes, right? So it's very much evolving, right, in terms of where we're at today. So, everything from a few large power plants to more distributed, smaller producers as we start thinking about renewables, solar, hydrogen, battery storage, et cetera. Moving from a centralized to more decentralized markets, right? So the landscape's changing. Going from the traditional large power lines, right, and pipelines to a new world with energy storage, right? Where we're starting to think about how we store the energy, not just transmit it. Going from one-way to two-way distribution, right? So you're going to have customers that they're already doing it. They're going to be giving back energy to the grid. What does that mean? And that parlays into more of an active customer, right? Where they're really going to be thinking more about their usage, not just their demand. And how do they participate in that ecosystem, right? I think those are all important. And so you think about green energy, you think about grid modernization, and you think about the fact that we want to meet carbon reduction goals. These are all challenges that are happening at the same time, right? And they require additional infrastructure. It changes the way we think about how we produce energy, how we consume. Utilities, as I mentioned, have to really think about how that's going to impact not just how we produce, but how it impact our customer demand. The next slide, I'll talk about customer behavior, how they use that energy and utilize that energy differently, and the equitability, right, of how those additional costs are distributed. Thanks for the next slide. So just to step back a minute, you can click on the next one too. I don't mind. No, go ahead. There you go. The build. So just to, I want to talk a little bit more about the difference between demand and usage. They're important, right? Because when you think about demand, you have some simple kind of examples here around, how do you think about a car that, it needs to go 100 miles? They can do it in 10 hours, right, at a moderate speed, or they can get in there in 1 hour going 100 miles an hour, right? The pressure, the tension on that engine, the demand is going to be a lot greater. Think about same on the power side, single light bulb versus multiple, right? If I run 10 bulbs for 1 hour, I get to 1,001 kilowatt hour, but the demand is 10x higher, right? So a lot of it isn't just how much I need, it's also how do I utilize that energy differently, right? As we think about shifting, towards net zero, the energy transition, part of it is how do we build in new infrastructure, new types of energy? Part of it's also the consumer behavior, right? In terms of how we continue to think about how we utilize our energy more effectively and ensuring that equity is really kind of recognizing that difference between demand and usage. A couple pieces, also a multifamily home, as you think about some of the communities we have, in terms of high energy burden communities, they're going to be thinking about that differently in terms of how, when you're putting in additional infrastructure, you're putting in additional costs. Well, how's that get distributed, right? The benefits and the costs need to be equitable. Today, they wouldn't be necessarily when you start thinking about some of the underserved communities, right? So we need to think about that, and that needs to be front of mind as we move forward. And carbon reduction goals. There's some quotes in here around carbon reduction. You know, we want to get to, you know, reduce carbon, but at the same time, there's going to be a cost to doing that, right? We know that some of the infrastructure, some of the new technologies are more costly than traditional. So we have to be cognizant of that, right? We have to figure out, well, how do we afford that? And then ultimately, how do we pass it on in an equitable manner, right? So it's important to get there, but we have a lot of kind of conflicting pieces that we got to address. Next slide. All right, let's move to the demand side. We'll start out with Orlando. You know, one of the factors that Orlando has it from a net migration standpoint. So there's a net migration from the Census Bureau in terms of how many people are moving down here. There's about 1,000 people a day moving to Florida right now, which is great. It's second after Texas in the whole country right now in terms of net migration. That's ins and outs. So that's a lot of folks, right? That's great for Florida, but also at the same time, it puts some additional growth and tension on our electric load, right? So that's not even taking into account some of the other factors we talked about as well. Increase in residents in Metro Orlando, 50,000, you know, increase in businesses, which is great for the community, right? In terms of, you know, what we've seen. What does that mean for long-term in terms of load growth? Well, if you look at, there's different cases, base case, and then a rapid growth scenario, that could be anywhere from 8 to 10% to 23% higher in terms of the overall load growth in the coming years if you go up to 2033. So just that alone, which is a great problem to have, right? When we're in the Southeast Sun Belt, but that will already put pressure on our traditional kind of load, right? In terms of how we think about our capacity. So now we're going to layer in some of those other factors we talked about, right? So it's a challenge, it's an opportunity, but it's a challenge at the same time. So we have to be cognizant and think about how we address it accordingly. Next slide. All right, then if you go out really kind of nationwide, you think about, you know, U.S. electricity demand. You know, there's varying different estimates out there that we've seen in terms of kind of nationwide demand, but the fact of the matter is, whether you're looking at next year, 5 years, you know, 40 years out, they're all going up, right? In terms of the additional demand, right? So there's an increasing demand environment we have. Some of that's driven by some of the things we talked about with the energy transition. Some of that's also driven by new applications, right? Reshoring of manufacturing back to the U.S. Since 2021, almost $500 billion that have been brought back or proposed to be brought back in terms of industrial projects. That could be high-tech manufacturing, chips, batteries, all your infrastructure, raw materials, et cetera. So there's a lot there, right? You think about data centers, right? AI, the big topic right now. Amazon alone is going to invest $150 billion over the next 15 years. Just last week, they announced $9 billion for Singapore just in cloud infrastructure alone. Just think about that, right? In terms of the magnitude and what the energy that requires to produce. Virginia alone has attracted over 250 new data centers, 94, almost 100 of which are already interconnected. So they're happening. They're not like, hey, we're thinking about it. They're happening from companies like Microsoft and Google. So reshoring manufacturing, you think about the renewables, you think about data centers from the rise of AI, all a challenge, right, for utilities going forward. How do you support those energy intensive loads, right? So we have to have the capacity, and how do we think about the supply side? So we have a lot of demand. If you think about from a value chain perspective, I start out, do I have my demand, right? Next question is, can I supply that demand, right? Yes or no? If I can, cool. If I can't, well, now I got to think about, can I afford to put in that capacity? And then secondarily, do I have supply chain constraints that force me to push that out further, right? Which we've dealt with in recent years. And then if I don't have any of that, well, now I got to think about other ways, right? Other sources to think about how to get that energy, right? You want to be able to provide that and supply the customer demand. Next slide. So this one talks a little bit more about the supply constraints, right? So again, challenge, opportunity, you know, depending how you look at it. Data centers can range anywhere from 30 to 90 megawatts. A data campus can be up to several gigawatts. Think about the size and the computing power for that. Dominion alone, you know, if it's just thinking about as interconnected those data centers, they can accommodate the 94. Again, they have demand for 250. All right, so as you start thinking about that, well, how are they going to supply that? Whether it's capacity, and then you start thinking about the supply chain constraints we've thought about. You know, we've looked at in recent years. You know, Attila and his group have been thinking about that in terms of transformers, conduits, smart meters. You know, you name it, right? In terms of components, some of those are years out, right? So we're thinking totally different about the supply chain right now. So when you look at some of the states that are emerging data center markets, this is a drill down on that one market. You know, Florida today is not a leading state for data center development. You got Texas, you got Georgia, you got Arizona, et cetera, that are kind of more driven by that for a number of reasons. But these ongoing supply chain issues are really going to impact the entire utility industry, right? There's going to be an impact in terms of how we supply going forward. So again, challenges, opportunities, but I think, you know, it's definitely something that's evolving as we go. Next slide. So we've gone from demand to supply. Now, what does that mean from a cost and price standpoint? So again, you have all these things converging. You have supply chain constraints, you have some of these new applications, you have the energy transition. And then you layer in some of the things that we're thinking about from a grid modernization infrastructure standpoint, right? With climate change, et cetera. All these things are not going to drive prices down, right? They're going to drive prices up. This is a bit of a complicated graph. I'll see if I can use this pointer here. So, you know, this is the US PPI, so Producer Price Index. So what this represents is really an average of the wholesale pricing for goods and services by producers. It's looked at monthly, yearly, and the change in deltas really represents what's the increase in average price across there. Just to give you some kind of a baseline here. So the red line is the US PPI. The purple line is the electric power transmission, the cost of that. So if you look at it, it's probably about 15 from 21 to 23. I actually did numbers. It's about 15% increase up. When you look at the actual distribution and power distribution transformers, that's closer to 45% up. When you add those two up, electric rates have really outpaced US inflation in recent years as a result, right? So you got to add those all up together. You know, and then when you also start to look at, you know, the other piece of this graph is looking at solar natural gas generation costs. So recent years, you've had the fuel increase with natural gas, but in general, in kind of base load years, typical years, you have solar still at a higher cost per kind of megawatt hour per unit than what you would think about from a natural gas standpoint. So what does that mean? Is I'm putting in more infrastructure around solar, around renewables, well, it's also increase some of my costs, right? So these continuing increase in rates, you know, are going to continue to drive supply chain pressures. You know, we're going to see more new applications. We're going to continue to see the transition going on. So how do we think about it in terms of what does that mean from a pricing perspective? What does that mean from how do we pass those costs? And then again, we get into more the equitability in terms of how is that done equitably, right? In terms of how do we think about the community?
Excuse me, can I ask a question about
Please.
that one? So just so I understand this, natural gas prices here, natural gas pretty volatile. So we're seeing that in this slide, right?
Yep.
That's what explains that. On the solar, we were seeing solar trending down. And we're showing here in 22 and 23 where it's going back up. Is that supply chain?
Yes, that's predominantly,
Challenges for
yes.
Panels and maybe
It is.
import tariffs from China and stuff. Okay, so does this include like O&M, like operating these systems? Because,
This is predominantly, yeah, this is,
or is this just capital?
this is, I think, a mixture of both. It's also including operating costs of
It
well.
should be all, because I always wonder, you know, every month when we approve the costs, it's the
Yep.
coal and the natural gas that really have high O&M, and you don't see any of that with solar.
Yep.
But this is trying to capture
Yes.
all of that capital and the operating expenses. All right.
I think the other thing too, again, just general inflation, you're seeing it on the labor side too, right? And so from a solar installation standpoint, you have the combination of the actual panel, but you've got upward pressure going on from inflation, from a labor standpoint, the labor associated to install them. So it
That's right.
continues to be a combination. And there were more tariffs that the White House administration just announced in the last couple of days. So we're seeing more tariffs on foreign commodities. And so you just sense there's more pressure on. I think we all understand, you know, the attempt to move towards the domestic manufacturing, but that can't happen overnight. These manufacturing facilities cannot just be built overnight in the US market. So it's just, again, there's no recommended action here. It's just continue informing the board of some of the pressures that are happening in the US market that we will continue to face and how do we incorporate those in our plan as we move forward. It's definitely headline news that appears nationally right now. And it's interesting from a couple of years ago, right, in COVID, we were worried about significant recession and loss load and just kind of overnight, you know, especially more so in Florida too, you're continuing to see significant amounts of load coming our way, which is again, great. But this AI and data center stuff is just kind of a whole new world.
Exactly. Absolutely. Last slide. Next. Thank you. So just like Clint said, there's no ask today. This is really to be informative, right? So in terms of kind of where the environment's at today, nationally, you have all those factors we just talked about from a demand standpoint, applications, increasing costs. It's a very dynamic environment, right, for utilities. Utilities really have to evolve, in terms of how they meet that demand. And while they're trying to meet carbon reduction goals and more importantly, maintain equity from a customer standpoint in terms of how that's distributed. For OUC specifically, the strong population growth we talked about, transportation, so EV adoption, solar adoption, which are very relevant for this state, and customer equity will be major factors as we think about. This impacts not only us near term in terms of how we think about running today, but this is a strategic topic, right? As we think about our future net zero goals, how we think about our customer, employee, community. These are all gonna be key factors as we start to think about our strategy refresh, our ERP renewal, and then a topic that Clint will talk about in more detail in a few moments, our pricing roadmap initiatives. So with that, I'll take any additional questions.
Maybe just one
Yes.
last question.
Please.
My understanding of data centers and AI is that there are very few or no utilities sitting around with gigawatts of power capacity, just sitting there waiting. They shop around, Amazon's, the Microsofts.
Yep.
They shop around, they find an agreeable utility that wants to build more transmission, probably even build some generating capacity. And so you find those deals. Are we even is Florida even interested in attracting that kind of a 24-hour load? Or is it difficult down here to even respond to those kinds of requests from some of these bigger data?
I think as the one slide indicated, sort of primary and secondary markets, and Florida's not in either one of those at the moment. Certainly you have to think geographically from a weather pattern standpoint, that's creating some hesitation, I would say, from what we have heard from some of the data centers. But to your point, right, at some point they may run out of options and perhaps they will continue to look. They're obviously going towards the lowest price power has been a big element for them. But we have learned from some other utilities, exactly to your point, how you structure the deal is critical. It's not your traditional sort of brick and mortar type facility. They really can kind of get up and move. They're here one day and can be gone the next, and they really could chase, that next lower cost increment of power wherever that may be in the country. Very heavy energy load, as mentioned, and nearly around the clock, right? It's just that cooling load required for those data centers and those chips creating significant amount of heat. I would speculate at some point along this journey, someone will continue to innovate and figure out how to reduce that energy burden, right? Isn't that what innovation is going to be about? So we'll keep an eye on it as they begin, perhaps start knocking on the door of the state of Florida. Again, this map was a little bit of an indication of where their focus has been. But they're very significant loads. How do you address the pressures that they put on your, CO2 emissions goals, right? That kind of load would be load that you would have over 10 years. And now you can get it perhaps in one. And so what does that do, to your goal? So there's a lot that has to be balanced on how these deals are structured.
I wouldn't see the data center becoming a secondary market of public utilities. Okay, I just don't see that data pointing in that direction of what I know of data centers and from a technology as well as utilities. I could see a private concern looking into that in Florida, but I wouldn't see an OUC looking at that as a secondary market.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And on my last few minutes here, I just want to continuing this evolution of planning and knowing how integral it is to OUC and our customers. It is essential that we continue to focus on planning for future needs. And as such, I just wanted to announce publicly for the board that we'll be holding a public workshop to present a 5-year strategic pricing roadmap at 2 p.m. on Thursday, June 13th, 2024. proposing updates on our pricing structure to keep pace with the evolving technologies, the environmental goals, and the new demands on the grid, as you just heard Mike speak of. The pricing structure changes seek to maintain affordable, reliable, sustainable, and equitable electric grid. We've noticed our customers to the workshop date in our May bill insert and on bill messaging. We'll continue to develop meeting details as they're finalized, and we'll promote this through multiple communication channels with the community partners soon. And we look forward to presenting you and our community with the latest research and information on this very important subject. So we'll look forward to that meeting on June 13th. President, I have no further comments. Unless there's any question about the board.
Excuse me, what percentage of our customers get paper bills?
Paper bills.
About 45.
About 45% opposed to electronics. Janice, why don't you come up there and there you go.
It is in their electronic bill that they get, and then we also do an e-news to all of our customers that we have emails for. So that will go out. Those go out once a month, but we'll be doing a special communication for this as well.
All right, thank you, Glenn. All right, any commissioner comments?
Maybe just a couple things. That water treatment plant, that's super efficient, so it looks really good. So thanks for that presentation today. Maybe just two comments. You know, the pricing, such an advantage OUC has, and municipal utilities in general, the responsiveness, right? Many large utilities, it takes time to go back to commissions and try to get approval for it. And yet this is something we can do very quickly for the customers in our service territory. So I think that's a huge advantage OUC has over others. And then finally, I'd sure like to understand more about the revenues coming in from EVs, because you indicated that like it's making a mark.
Yes.
And I'd sort of like to know what that looks like, just to start to broadcast what that can mean. So I'd be interested in knowing what kind of a dent it's made in, whether that's home charging or whether that's really in the public charging space that we're seeing those revenues come in.
That sounds like an action item, Mindy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice, great meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you on 7 times receiving that award for best place for wellness. That's amazing. But I think what really caught my attention is that the library also is 100 and you were able to partner with them. And then having the science center continue this is really a great way to inform and educate.
Great.
Thank you. Very good and informative meeting. I think I forgot last meeting to thank Wade and Attila for my Stanton plant tour. Very informative. It's a wild place out there. I will say, I felt like it was Thunderdome, like 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, when I first came on the board, we were kind of coming off some price increases, and it was like, how quickly are we going to, push that money back out? And now every day in the paper, I read of these challenges ahead. And, even today there was the grid upgrade infrastructure in the New York Times. We got our carbon goals, we got PFAS, we got the power generation that we all heard about. So I feel like we have government regulations, I feel like we have industry standards, and then I feel like we have the OUC way. So as we see the success of the water treatment plant, at least what I could see and what I think is coming, we're gonna wanna do that in other places. So we don't want to get stuck. We got some challenges. We got some pricing challenges coming. We got some upgrades coming. We've got and some of them are being pushed upon us, and some of them are going to be things we want to do. So thank you for keeping us informed along the way, because it's all of a sudden becoming very dynamic and very fast moving. So I'm glad to see everybody's keeping pace. So thank you.
Well, I'd like to echo the effusively complimentary comments of Mr. Blount about Linda being a member of our board. But I guess I would again just like to say thank you on the undergrounding of the overhead lines at Lake Eola Park. That's been a goal of mine for, I don't know, 15 years. Probably I've been talking about that or at least thinking about it. So knowing that that's near term, that we can walk the whole park and not have those. I know you guys love the look of overhead lines. Right. Not all of us do, but to have those out will be fantastic. And then after having over 30 members of the public come beat on us about our stormwater rates, it's nice to vote for something and reduce some rates. So thank you for that.
All right, just a couple things real quick. Again, I want to commend you on the communication strategy. With the Robinson project and the parking and the driving and road construction, didn't want us to be viewed as the primary source of the disruption. And so getting that communication strategy out early though and warrants, as well as upfront, as Mayor said, on the pricing reduction. That communication piece is key. Secondly, I want to echo the best wellness deal. The thing that caught my eye about that is not that you want, but that the emphasis on personal lifestyle. Normally, you find those programs geared around safety and wellness within the work environment and adjoining areas, but we've gone into their individual health plans, looking at diabetes, looking at AC1 levels and things of this nature. So I commend you on that. That becomes an employer of choice type object, as well as, again, that BRIC award. The thing that caught me on that was the combination sustainability and excellence. That those two, you don't hear common. And that's outstanding, that we not only want to sustain a level, but we want to do it in an excellent manner. And that's got to be something you communicate to our employee base. And then finally, just amazed at our volunteerism, not only with the management, but with the employees. That's just awesome on what you showed in that area. So I just commend you all as always. Just very informative, but I got to tell you, with all you guys gave us today, my little head is spinning. That was a lot of information, but very good stuff. All right. All right. Well, we've had all the commissioner comments and Clint from you with the public speaking as well. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned at 3:41. Thank you.